We're continuing on Mishna Berura, on our study of Orach Chaim, Siman Resh Ayin Aleph. The halachot of Kiddush is what we're starting today. A very important and very practical Siman. Maran writes, a person immediately when he comes home, he should start the Seudah, which means start the Kiddush. K'she'avo lebeto imaher lechol miyad. The Chafetz Chaim writes, this indicates that you have to do the Kiddush the very beginning of Shabbat. As soon as Shabbat starts, you want to start your Kiddush already. We make a drasha from the Pasuk that you have to sanctify Shabbat both when it comes in and also when it goes out, to feel the separation, the difference between Shabbat and Yemei Chol. The regular weekdays and Shabbat should be different. So the way we do it is, we say Kiddush when Shabbat comes in, we say Havdalah when we part with Shabbat, and that is a mitzvah deoraita, a biblical mitzvah as well. Now, says the Mishna Berura, the reason that Maran writes that you should start eating is because immediately after Kiddush, you should be eating right away. It has to be Kiddush b'makom seudah. You can only say Kiddush, right, when you are actually having your seudah. You can't just make Kiddush without having seudah of Shabbat. Now this, of course, goes together with having Kiddushes in the shul, aside from what we already have mentioned prior to this. The Mishna Berura is not a big supporter of having Kiddush at the shul because of a very technical halachic issue, not necessarily the hashkafic point. He doesn't get into that. I'm not even sure if they had that type of a thing as a hashkafic problem. But says the Chafetz Chaim, there's a mitzvah that the person should be eating Seudat Shabbat b'ta'avon, should have appetite, to the degree that Chazal created a prohibition against eating a large Seudah on Friday. Right? A Seudah that you're not used to. It's asur to eat on Friday. Why? What does it have to do with the Chol Shabbat? Because you want to make sure that when you come to Shabbat, you are hungry. You enjoy the food when you are b'ta'avon, when you're hungry. So says the Chafetz Chaim, therefore, if you're home, right, if you're in the shul, and you're having a catered meal before you go to your wife, right, then you go home, and your wife has worked the whole, forget about the hashkafic part I said. So you go sit by the Seudah. Now, you're not yotzei the Seudah by the shul, because you're not eating bread, right? You're just having whatever it is, cholent and poppers and whatnot. And then you go home, you're having Seudah, but you're full already. So you just defied what Chazal had enacted as a takana d'Rabbanan. Now, hashkafically, once we have the mic, we could speak a parenthesis here. Your wife has worked a whole week, right? Anticipating Shabbat, the work, cooking of a woman is like an artwork of a man, right? And you just had a catered meal. You come home, no, I'm not eating this, I'm not eating that, right? Aside from the halachic problem, like where's the hakarat tov? Is the appreciating of your wife, especially if you could tell people, I don't eat at shul because I want to eat my wife's food, right? It's like and you say it in front of your wife. It is an appreciation, as long as of course you're consistent with that. It's an appreciation. It's a midot tovot, a proper character of a person. But put all of that aside. How does this mechanically work? Because if you're eating Kiddush, you're eating poppers and so on, so that's not correct. You have to eat at least a Seudah. Now Seudah means either you have to have pat, you have to have bread, or you have to have a kazayit of mezonot, or you have to have an extra cup of wine, right, or grape juice. Either of those is going to be Kiddush Makom Seudah, which we're going to study the halachot together. But if you're not doing that, then the Kiddush is not chal, your chiyuv of Kiddush has not been fulfilled yet. So therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, when you enter Shabbat, immediately after you want to say Kiddush, and once you say Kiddush, you want to start Seudah, hence the language of the Shulchan Aruch. So now says the Chafetz Chaim, but if you are not available, imagine, Eino ta'ev le'echol, you're not feeling well, you don't have appetite yet, you have to wait a little bit until you're hungry, you have appetite. Says Chafetz Chaim, you could wait a little bit. Why? What happens with this whole mitzvah of being Mekadesh Shabbat right away? So it says, the Mishna Berura, we're going to rely on the Magen Avraham, on the Ramah. What's the Shita of Magen Avraham? Avraham holds, and this actually we just used on Yom Kippurim, because Yom Kippurim fell on Shabbat, and there's no Kiddush when Yom Kippurim falls on Shabbat, right? So how do you do your obligation of Kiddush, right? If we assume that there is obligation of Kiddush, we do it by Mekadesh HaShabbat v'Yisrael v'Yom Kippurim. When you say it in Tefillah, Mekadesh HaShabbat, that's Kiddush. That's the Shita of Magen Avraham, that the Midoraita, biblically speaking, when you say Mekadesh Shabbat on Friday night, every Friday night, Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh Shabbat, you were just Mekadesh the Shabbat, right? So therefore, you already did your obligation Deoraita in the Bet Knesset. What's left is the Rabbanan. And therefore, this is a massive Chidush, by the way, because do you have to have Kavanah for Kiddush or not? Mitzvot tzrichot Kavanah. We mentioned that the Oraita for sure, on a biblical level, a mitzvah that you do needs to have Kavanah. I didn't have Kavanah for Kiddush when I said Mekadesh Shabbat. So maybe my obligation, the Oraita, is still hovering over my head, right? So that's, we're not getting into the yeshiva world of Lamdut, of how this works. This is a very geschmack, back and forth in the poskim, a delicious piece for a shiur for itself, but nevertheless, the Magen Avraham Shita is, you said Mekadesh Shabbat in Arvit, yalla, you did your Deoraita already. Come home, the Rabbanan. So therefore, if it's only the Rabbanan, I'm not hungry yet, I want to wait half an hour until I have the appetite, that's fine as well. So it says, by the way, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he asks a following question. Imagine a person who's worked very hard, he's tired, he comes home, he's mamash tired, right? And it's in the winter time, so the night is long. He says, I'm going to take a little nap, and then I'm going to wake up and say Kiddush, right? Are we going to allow him or not? Well, technically speaking, should we allow him? Absolutely not. Why? Because when you have a mitzvah and you got to go shluffing, right? We're concerned that what's going to happen, right? No, you're going to hopefully wake up, but you're going to wake up in the morning, right? You wake up in the morning, it's a Boker Tov, right? So that you miss the whole thing. But says Rav Shlomo Auerbach, it's not so pashut, because when you wake up in the morning, what happens? What, the chiyuv of Kiddush went away? No, you still have a chiyuv of Kiddush, right? You say it in the Kiddush of the morning, okay? So you say the Kiddush in the morning. We're going to see that coming up, right? So if you say is Darabanan, well, we don't want you to lose it. If you say is Darabanan, well, so we're not that concerned maybe as much as we would be concerned if you say it's the Oraita. So therefore, if you paskin like Magen Avraham, that when I said Mekadesh Shabbat in Arvit, I already did my obligation midoraita, it's a little easier to let you, take a little nap, have your wife pour a cup of water on your face after half an hour, and wake up. It would be still fine. So that's the suffix of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. But Lemaaseh, says the Mishna Berura, ומכל מקום נראה דאחד יש בזה משום שלום בית, או שיש לו בביתו משרתים או שאר אורחים, if you have, it's going to be a problem of shalom bait, right? Or you have workers at your home, you have other guests, Ubifrat oreach ani, or if you have an ani that you invited, a poor man that's going to be eating with you, lo ya'achel b'chol gavni. You should not wait, delay. Do it immediately. People, you want to wait. They don't want to wait. What did they do wrong that they were invited to you, right? Yeah. He says mishartim. Actually, it's good that he asked. There's a story associated with this. One of the Gdolim in Radin, or the Ashirim in Radin, he wanted to invite the Chafetz Chaim so badly. The Gadol Ador, come to your house. Right? Pushing and pushing. Chafetz Chaim didn't want to go. He relented after a while. He relented. Fine. Relented. And he went Friday night. Fine. Friday night comes there. Now he's done a whole setup, like he has a list of songs that they're going to sing between every course. It's going to be like a 15-course meal, like this and a dessert. Chafetz Chaim rushed the whole thing. He didn't sing Shalom Aleichem and stuff 3 times. He did 1 time, or skip the whatever he could skip. No Eshet Chayil Yalla Kiddush. He's pushing the guy, and the guy is like, "Wow, ma!" Because Gadol Ador, what are you going to say? He is there. You want to see how he runs the seder of the Friday night, and he's mamash rushing. Bring. Says kiddush right away. Mamash, boom, wash, hamotzi, boom. Bring the first course. Right, we can't say no to him. So you bring everything, and he's eating quickly. Okay, second course, right? Sing maybe. He says no. First, let's eat. Like the guy is like completely. And he says, bring the second course, the third, everything they have, dessert, bring dessert. And the man is like losing it. He's like, what kind of thing? Well, he hasn't eaten food in his life. What is it? Then, when he's finished with everything, so anything else to bring, says, no, that's it. Says, fine. Now we're going to sing. But now, go tell the Mesharetet that is working in your kitchen that she could go home. And he goes to tell her, and she bursts into tears. Says, finally I could eat a Friday night dinner with my family. I work for this man every week. And the Suda goes until close to midnight. My husband, my kids don't eat. They wait for me. They wait up. We make Kiddush close to midnight. Now I could go and surprise them with an earlier meal. My kids are waiting for me. They're crying. So Chafetz Chaim said, now we could sit and sing. To have the foresight of a Gadol B'Yisrael, that the glitz and glamour of a 15-course meal and one of the Ashirim in town and all that fades away in front of his sensitivity to someone he didn't even see, but he knew existed in the kitchen, working hard to try to put these meals together and try to serve these meals together, and her family waiting back at home. So he hints to it in Mishna Berura here. But there's a story behind it also that actually happened. No, it was a Jewish woman. If it's good, it's still you have to be sensitive. It doesn't make No, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same thing. But again, they're not waiting for a goy to say kiddush anywhere. But it's an important thing to keep in mind. Like we just read in the Haftarah of Yom Kippurim, Kazeh som evcharehu. Hashem says, I'm not interested in you fasting and banging on your chest. I'm interested to see ani merudim tavi bayit. You're bringing the poor into your house. You're sensitive to them. You're supporting them. You're helping them. It's action. It's action that counts even louder. So it's good that he asked, because this is the story behind this one little thing over here. It says when you have oshiyeshlo bebetom mesharatim, when you have workers at your home, that they have to go do their own life afterwards, or you have other guests that can't really wait as much. So then don't say, oh wow, the Shulchan Aruch says if I don't have appetite, I could wait. Yeah, you could, but if other people are waiting for you, then Efa Midot. So that's Sif Aleph. Let's do one more. Nashim chayavot bekidush. Afal pishu mitzvah aseh shazman grama. Women are obligated to do kiddush hayom, to do kiddush of Shabbat. Now, what's the Chidush? The Chidush is, normally speaking, women are chayav to sit in the sukkah or not? Do not. They're chayav to do lulav and etrog or not? No, why? Because shazman grama, right? Tzitzit, they're chayav? No. Shazman grama, right? Because only during the day uritem oto, not at night, right? Same is for tefillin. Why is tefillin considered mitzvah shazman grama? No, I see I caught you. This was a trick question. We paskin laila zman tefillin. Laila, you could do it. The reason we right away take it off, we don't want to have it at night, is shema yishan b'hem v'shema yafiach b'hem, right? It's a concern that the person is going to fall asleep, and when you're sleeping, you can't control your body functions, and it's not respectful for tefillin to be on you, for the name of Hashem to be on you in that way. So we do. But Mikar Din, Laila Zman Tefillin, is because Shabbat is not Zman Tefillin. Shabbat is the ot of itself. Shabbat and Yom Tov is not Zman Tefillin. So it's Mitzvah Zman Grama, right? So Shabbat also is Zman Grama. It's only applicable on Shabbat. So women should be patur from all the mitzvot that are positive mitzvot that are time bound. So why is it that Shabbat der Chayav, Kiddush der Chayav? Why? Because the Gemara learns from a limud of a hekesh that says Zachor and Shamor. Right? איך אומרים? Shamor v'Zachor v'dibur echad. They say in one, actually we spoke about it this morning in the Gemara here, right? So you have a hekesh between Zachor and Shamor. Zachor means, Shamor means what? Every time that says Tishmeru Shamor is the don't do's, the negative mitzvot. Zachor is a positive mitzvah. It's comparing the positive and the negative mitzvot of the Shabbat together, right? Again, in the Aseret HaDibrot in Parashat Yitro versus Aseret HaDibrot in Parashat Va'et Hanan are different. By mitzvah of Shabbat in Parashat Yitro, what does it say? Shamor Yom Shabbat lekadesho. By Va'et Hanan, what does it say? Zachor Yom Shabbat, right? I hope it's not the other way around. Right? How's it go? Kvod HaChazan? Right? So, by one of them says Zachor, by the other one says Shamor, right? So how does it work? Well, they're said together, right? Hashem spoke once. Achat tiber Elokim, shtayim zu shamanu. Why? Because it's inextricably bound together. They're mamash together, and that Chazal learned from this hekesh, that any person that is chayav to keep Shabbat from the don't do's is also chayav to keep Shabbat from the do's, right? So if you can't be mahalal Shabbat, you have to also say kiddush. So women are completely equal opportunity with men when it comes to the mitzvah of Shabbat because of this limud that we have, right? So it says the Shulchan Aruch, the itkash mishum the itkash zachor leshamor, because they have been compared together, these two mitzvot, and therefore they have to keep it. V'hani nashi hoil ve'itnehu b'shemira. Once women have to keep Shabbat from the don't do's, itnehu b'zchira. They're also obligated to do all of the positive mitzvot of Shabbat, and their chiyuv, their obligation is equal to that of women, mamash equal, to the degree that they could say the kiddush and men would be yotzeh, right? Because they're chayav from the Torah, it's not a rabbinic thing. if you have a child, right, that is just turned bar mitzvah tonight, it's Friday night, right? Can he say the Kiddush on Friday night? It's a trick question. Huh? It's a trick question. You can't, shouldn't. Why? Why? You just became bar mitzvah. Why he shouldn't? Because 13 years and 1 day is not midoraita bar mitzvah. The two components, they have to also have a bodily growth, a maturity of shte sa'arot, the makom merva, right? Unless you checked, you don't know. But we assume it's called chazaka de Rava, right? The Master Rava says everyone that's 13 in 1 day, we assume that they already have matured in a physical aspect of their body as well. But we assume it, right? For Drabanans, you could use that assumption. For a Deoraita, can you assume that assumption? I can't, shouldn't. So therefore, you see how important this is, the Magen Avraham that we started the shiur with? If you say that I said, Mekadesh Shabbat in Tefillah in the shul, I was already Yotze, my Deoraita, it's only the Rabbanan. So then I could rely on Chazaka de Rava, right? And assume that my son is already mature physically as well, and he could say the Kiddush for everyone. But if you say that this is the Oraita, not so fast, right? Not so pashut. So the halakha is, we try to stay away from that until we know it for sure. But the women could do it. Why? Because the obligation of women is mamash the same when it comes to Hilchot Shabbat as that of the men. And therefore they could say Kiddush and be motzi everyone else, or their husband, their family, at least, as well. Right?
But with the child, the women weren't in shul, so don't they still have the right obligation?
No, so talk about the father, for instance.
Or just the father?
Yeah. Correct. If you have a person that hasn't davened yet, right? So it does not matter of shul. Anyone that hasn't davened, if the woman davened, said Mekadesh Shabbat, they also have the same acha. So if you have somebody that has not davened yet, then of course they for sure attain an obligation midoraita, and the child should not be saying it for them, right?
So a bat mitzvah girl could do kiddush, but a bar mitzvah boy can't necessarily?
Well, the same thing for girls as well, right? They also need shtei sarot. Fine. So that is the Shulchan Aruch, which is again straightforward from the Masechet Brachot, Daf Chaf, this halacha. Says the Chafetz Chaim, one thing we missed, by the way, the previous seif, when you say you have to right away say Kiddush, right? Now it's becoming better because the summertime is coming to an end. But in summertime, when you daven Arvit in the Bet Knesset, is it night yet? I think early minyan most people do, right? It's not nightfall yet. What does that affect? The chiyuv of your Kriyat Shema. Kriyat Shema you have to say at night. When you say it early, simply put, Yina Yotzeh. So yes, there's a Tosafot in Masechet Brachot Daf Bet that maybe reconcile this issue, but simply put, you have to repeat Kriyat Shema after Stak Chavim, right? So until you hug and kiss the rabbi and the gabbai sheni and everyone else in the shul, and then you catch up with everyone else and you walk 20 minutes to your house, right? Already it's Stak Chavim. So now you're standing there with a cup, you don't say Kiddush. You have an obligation of saying Shema, which you weren't Yotze in the shul, because it's too early. And you have an obligation of saying Kiddush. Which one comes first? Why? Tadir. Kol Tadir v'sheno Tadir. Tadir kodem. When you have a mitzvah that is done more frequently, and a mitzvah that is less frequent, all odds even, the one that is more frequent is more important. It takes precedent. So Kriyat Shema is every night. Right? Kriyat Shema Shel Laila is every night. Mitzvah of Kiddush is only 54 times a year, give and take, depending on the year, right? So Kriyat Shema should come first. You hear what's happening here? Therefore, this actually creates a big problem, right? In business of creating problems here, like what's the problem this creates? Huh? No, that also that's already in your heart. What do you mean? That you don't even have to have a cup in your hand for Kriyat Shema, right? It's mamash there. You don't even need a cup. That's not the issue. The issue is like this. That's all good if you hug the rabbi and the gabbai and the gabbai sheni and you walk 20 minutes. It's mamash night when you get home, right? But many times that's not the case. Many times you get home when it's after Shkia, but it's not fully night yet, right? Now what do? Well, you should be saying Kriyat Shema first, but it's not so pashut if the time of Kriyat Shema is, right? And there's another problem. Half an hour before a mitzvah d'oraita, you cannot start a seudah, right? So you get home right before Shkia. Imagine if Shkia is like 25 minutes before Seudat Kochavim, according to the Shita of Geonim. So right before Shkia is half an hour before Seudat Kochavim. Right? So how can you start Suda? If you have an obligation upcoming, we are very concerned letting a person start Suda, and then next thing you know, he opens this fancy wine and then the drinks, and before you know it, he wakes up at 9 o'clock a.m. and he realizes he never said Shema last night, right? So we don't want to let that happen. So Shulchan Aruch has boundaries for this. You cannot. So if you get home, it's half an hour before Seudat Kochavim. Now what do? You can't start Suda. You can't say Shema yet. So now you're stuck. Your Kiddush has to be right before the thing. Technically, you could come up with something, but you don't want to say Kiddush and then sit there twirling your thumbs for another half an hour. So what do you do if you get stuck? By the way, Be'emet, what do? Two ways around it. But I think you don't want to get stuck in these situations. Just go home right away. Don't hog the rabbi, right? Go on and say your Kiddush right away before you get into this half an hour thing, right? But if sometimes it doesn't happen, so the ways around it. One way around it is you appoint a shomer. If you have somebody that's not part of the seudah, they've eaten before or whatnot, right? So then they could be your shomer, not to forget to say Shema. They come and remind you. When you have a shomer that's not eating seudah with you, because if he's eating seudah, he has the same problem, right? If he's not part of seudah, so then he could. Or a person could have other legitimate ways of reminding themselves. Now, this gets into a very sticky situation because there's a lot of machloket poskim around it. Can you have an alarm to remind you for something? Or, for instance, some people are very sensory, and if they take their watch off of their left hand and put it on their right hand, then they become paralyzed. They can't do anything. Every second is bothering them to no end, right? So that perhaps is considered a thing. Just put your watch when you finish tefillah, or when you start Shema, and you know that this Shema is early, just put your watch from your left hand to your right hand, and now you have a reminder to not forget to say Shema. One of my friends would make a knot on his small side of the tie, this way you can't take off the tie to go to sleep before you remember to say Shema, right? But that doesn't work on Shabbat. That's tying it's a problem, but that's But this is how beautiful this whole thing is. It's you have to be mindful of all these aspects of the mitzvah when you're dealing with it. I realize we're dropping this in the middle, but we're out of time. But Zat Hashem will continue this in the next shiur. Chazak u'baruch.